The desert sun burned like fire across the endless plains, baking the earth into shades of rust and gold. Heat shimmered above the ground, yet Sarah McKenna pulled her worn shawl tighter, though not from cold. She was trying to hold herself together to hide the hollowness inside. Her blue eyes scanned the horizon where red rock formations stood like ancient guardians against the sky. The wagon train had been moving for 3 days, crawling steadily toward the promise of new settlements near the Colorado River. For the others, it was a journey of hope. For Sarah, it was only escape. 6 months had passed since the night her life had been torn apart. 6 months since the bandits had attacked their small homestead and killed Thomas, her husband. At just 23, she was already a widow, carrying only a few belongings and a heart heavy with grief. The other families in the train treated her with a strange mixture of pity and unease. A young woman traveling alone was an oddity, perhaps even bad luck. They whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. But Sarah had nowhere else to go. Her sister lived far away in California, and behind her there was nothing but scorched earth, graves, and memories she could not bear to face. Mrs. McKenna, called Jacob Morrison, the wagon master, riding alongside her rickety wagon. His face was weathered, his hat wide enough to shield him from the sun. "We'll be stopping at Devil's Creek in a couple hours. You managing all right?" Sarah forced a smile. "Yes, Mr. Morrison. Thank you for asking." He lingered a moment, wanting to say more, then tipped his hat and rode ahead. Sarah knew what he hadn't spoken aloud. They were heading deeper into Apache territory. The very thought made her heart race. Around campfires, she had heard the stories. Raids, kidnappings, women stolen into the night. No one agreed on the truth, but the fear clung to every whispered word. The land itself began to change, as if to match their worries. Towering cacti stood like watchmen, their arms reaching up to the cloudless sky. The wind carried the dry scent of sage, and beneath it something sharper, something wild that made the oxen uneasy. Even her mare, Buttercup, tossed her head nervously, sensing danger before it showed its face. The attack, when it came, was sudden and brutal. But it wasn't Apache. Gunshots cracked through the desert air like lightning. Shouts and screams echoed as white bandits stormed the train, choosing the narrow path to strike when the wagons were stretched thin and unguarded. "Circle the wagons!" Morrison roared, but the bandits had chosen their moment too well. The lead wagon burst into flames, smoke rising like a dark pillar against the fading sky. Sarah's heart pounded as she grabbed Thomas's old rifle. Her hands trembled while she tried to remember how to load it. A bandit rode hard toward her wagon, his face hidden beneath a filthy bandana. She lifted the rifle, squeezed the trigger. Click. Nothing. She hadn't loaded it right. The bandit laughed, raising his pistol. Then an arrow whistled through the air, striking his shoulder. He tumbled from his horse with a cry. Sarah froze, unsure if she was dreaming. Through the dust and chaos, shapes appeared on the cliffs above. Apache warriors, but not attacking the wagons. They were striking the bandits with deadly skill. Arrows flew. Tomahawks flashed. No one could tell who was friend or foe anymore. The Morrison wagon overturned. Sarah spotted little Emma Morrison crawling out. Her small face streaked with blood. Without thinking, Sarah leapt from her wagon and ran. She scooped the child into her arms just as another bandit thundered toward them. She had no weapon left, only her body. She shielded Emma with all her strength, waiting for the final blow. It never came. The bandit collapsed in the dust, a tomahawk buried deep in his back. An Apache warrior stood over him, tall and fierce. He pulled his weapon free with calm precision. For a single heartbeat, their eyes locked, his dark as midnight, burning with both fury and sorrow. Then he vanished back into the fight. By nightfall, the battle was over. The surviving bandits fled into the desert, chased by a few of the warriors. The rest of the Apaches melted into the land, leaving nothing but silence behind. The wagon train, once proud and full of hope, was shattered. Of 12 families, only 7 wagons remained. Jacob Morrison lay dead along with others too many to count. Sarah helped tend the wounded. Her dress stained with Emma's blood. When the wagons prepared to move again, she discovered her own wagon had been destroyed. Her horse was gone, likely stolen. Everything she owned, Thomas's letters, her mother's Bible, lost to smoke and ash. "You'll have to ride with the Johnsons," young Ben Morrison told her, his voice already carrying the hardness of a man twice his age. But when she asked the Johnsons, they shook their heads. So did the Millers. So did the Blackwoods. No one wanted her anymore. "I'll walk," Sarah said quietly. And so she did, trudging through the sand as the wagons rolled farther and farther ahead. The sun sank, bleeding red into the horizon. Her boots rubbed her feet raw, her throat burned with thirst, and the distance between her and the others grew wider. An hour passed, then two. She stumbled, fell, her hands scraping against rock. She tried to rise, but her body refused. The wagons were specks now, fading into twilight. That was when the storm came. A wall of sand roared across the desert, swallowing the world. Sarah curled on the ground, pulling her shawl over her face as the wind clawed at her skin and ripped her breath away. She thought of Thomas and wondered if she would see him again soon. Then through the storm came horses. Hands seized her strong and unyielding. She fought weakly, striking out with fading strength. A voice answered her struggles, deep and strange, speaking words she didn't understand. "Apache," she panicked, struck once more, but the hands didn't release her. She was lifted, placed upon a horse, and pressed against the chest of a man whose heart beat steady as a drum. The warrior, the one who had saved her. His voice came again in broken English storm. "Bad. You die. Come." Wrapped in his blanket, Sarah tried to resist, but her strength melted away. The desert raged around them. Yet within the shelter of his arms, she felt something she had not known in months. Safety. Her eyes closed as the horse carried them forward into the storm. She slept against his Apache chest, unaware her life had just changed forever. The first thing Sarah noticed when she woke was warmth, not the scorching desert sun, but something gentler. She lay on soft furs, surrounded by the faint smell of smoke and sage. Slowly, her eyes adjusted to the dim light. A dome-shaped shelter rose around her, its walls made of bent saplings and hides. Voices murmured outside, children laughing, dogs barking. Memory returned like a rush of cold water. The attack, the storm, the Apache warrior. She sat up too quickly, her head spinning. Her boots were gone, though someone had placed them neatly by the door. A clay pot of water rested nearby with a wooden plate of dried meat. She stared at it, torn between gratitude and fear. The flap moved aside and an elderly woman entered. Her hair was gray, her face lined by years, her eyes sharp and knowing. "You wake," the woman said in careful English. She gestured. Drink. Sarah's throat burned with thirst. She hesitated only a moment before obeying, the cool water tasting sweeter than wine. "Thank you," she whispered. The woman nodded. "I am Sage Mother Camp of Chief Nikki. My nephew brought you from Storm." Sarah's heart lurched. Her nephew, the warrior. Before she could speak, a commotion erupted outside. Voices rose, angry and heated. Through the flap, Sarah glimpsed the people gathering in a circle. In the middle stood her rescuer, tall and calm, facing an older warrior adorned with feathers and beads. Their words were sharp, their gestures cutting. "What's happening?" Sarah asked. Sage Mother's face grew grave. "Black Crow says you must go. White woman brings soldiers, brings death." But she hesitated. "Old law may bind you instead." The crowd's noise grew louder. Then an ancient man stepped forward, staff in hand, his voice cutting through the argument. Everyone fell silent. Sage Mother drew in a sharp breath. "So it is decided?" Sarah's skin prickled. "What is decided?" The old woman looked at her, pity in her eyes. "Last night you slept against my nephew's chest. No rope, no force. You trusted him with your life. By old law, this makes you his woman. His wife Sarah staggered to her feet, horror flooding her. No, I didn't choose anything. I was unconscious. Sage Mother's gaze was steady. Choices are made by actions, not only words. You did not fight. You rested. You accepted. Sarah shoved past her and stumbled outside. Dozens of Apache eyes turned toward her. Men, women, children, all watching. Her rescuer stood in the center, his dark eyes locking onto hers. "This is insane," she cried in English, her voice shaking. "I am not your wife. I didn't agree to this. I was dying." The ancient man spoke again. A younger warrior translated haltingly. "Ghost answer says the signs are clear. White woman came to Standing Wolf in storm. She placed her life in his hands. Spirits have spoken Standing Wolf. At last she knew his name." Sarah looked at him, praying for some denial, some protest, but his face was unreadable, carved from stone. Chief Nika stepped forward, his voice calm, but firm. "This brings danger. Your people will say we stole you. They will bring soldiers." "Then let me go," Sarah pleaded. "I'll tell them you saved me. They'll believe me." Nika's mouth twisted in a bitter smile. "White woman defending Apache. No, they will say we bewitched you. Either way, they come with guns." Black Crow spat at her feet, snarling. His translator relayed his words. "Kill her now. Leave her body far. No one will know." Sarah's blood turned to ice. Standing Wolf moved, placing himself between her and Black Crow. His voice was low but clear. "My woman," he said in rough English, "my protect." The camp erupted into shouting. Warriors shifted, some siding with Black Crow, others with Standing Wolf. Women pulled their children close enough. Chief Nika's command silenced them all. "We do not spill blood over this. The old law stands. Unless she proves it false." Sarah's breath caught how Ghost Dancer lifted his staff. The translator looked uncomfortable as he explained. "You must show you do not trust Standing Wolf. For 7 sons, you must refuse his food, his water, his shelter. Run from him, hide from him, reject him. If you succeed, you are free. If you fail," he shrugged, "you are wife forever." Quote. Sarah's knees weakened. 7 days alone in this merciless desert. It was a death sentence. But the alternative, becoming this man's unwilling bride, was unthinkable. Her heart pounded as she looked at Standing Wolf. He said nothing, but his gaze burned into her, steady and unreadable. The drum sounded 3 times, echoing like a death knell. The test would begin at midday. Sarah's throat went dry. 7 days. She had to survive 7 days in a land she barely understood, haunted by a man whose very name was Standing Wolf, the best tracker of his people. And if she failed, she would wake forever as his unwilling burning bride. The desert showed no mercy. By the 4th day, Sarah's lips had cracked, her feet bled inside her boots, and her strength failed her. She had hidden among rocks, slipped away at night, even eaten bitter roots to hold off hunger. But the desert was not her ally. It was his. Standing Wolf found her slumped behind a cluster of willows, barely conscious. She tried to push him away, to mumble, "No." But her voice was broken, her body too weak. Without a word, he lifted her in his arms and carried her back to camp. The judgment was swift. She had failed. She was his wife. For weeks, Sarah lived in uneasy limbo. The camp tolerated her presence but whispered behind her back, "White witch, bad luck woman." Only Sage Mother showed kindness, teaching her words, helping her survive. Standing Wolf himself was a ghost, sleeping outside, speaking little, watching her with eyes she couldn't read. Then one day, everything changed. A hunting party staggered into camp with a child, Little Hawk, his leg mauled by a mountain cat. The medicine woman was away. Blood poured from the wound. Desperation filled the camp. Sarah's hands trembled, but her memory was clear. Lessons from the village doctor back home. She stepped forward. I can help him. Suspicion flashed. Fear. But Standing Wolf spoke, his voice ringing with authority. Let her kneeling in the dust. Sarah worked, cleaning, binding, soothing. The boy's breathing steadied, his color returned. When at last she tied the final cloth, little Hawk's mother grasped her hand, tears in her eyes. The camp's gaze had shifted. For the first time, Sarah wasn't a burden or a curse. She was useful, needed. But her trials weren't over. That night, Black Crow cornered her in the shadows, his knife gleaming. You play healer, play wife, but you are spy. You will betray us. Quote. Before Sarah could answer, Standing Wolf appeared. He stepped between them, his body shielding hers. His words were quiet but lethal. Black Crow sneered, then retreated. Why? Sarah asked later, voice unsteady. Standing Wolf looked at her for a long time. You saved our child. You are my wife. I protect what is mine. Something in his tone, possessive but also wounded, stirred Sarah's heart in ways she wasn't ready to admit. As weeks passed, she found herself drawn deeper into the camp's life. She worked beside the women, learned the plants, soothed the sick. Slowly, the whispers faded. Children began to laugh with her. Warriors began to nod in respect. Even Black Crow's gaze grew less hostile, and Standing Wolf, though distant, though scarred by loss, began to soften. She caught him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. She found small gifts, stones, feathers, left where she'd see them. At night, he no longer slept outside, but beside her, their silence no longer cold, but companionable. Then came the drought. The rivers shrank. The animals fled and hunger gnawed at the camp. Standing Wolf led Sarah and a small band into the canyons, searching for hidden springs. Together they cleared a rock slide and freed water long trapped. The spring flowed again, life from stone. That night, by the fire, Standing Wolf placed a carved bluebird in her hand. This was Little Dove's. He said softly. His first wife killed years ago. But now it is yours. You have eagle heart. Sarah's throat closed. For the first time she saw not the warrior, not the stranger, but the man, scarred, grieving, yet alive, and she knew she was no longer his captive. She was his choice, and he was hers. But the world would not let them be. Word spread of a white woman among the Apache. Soldiers came demanding her return. Samuel Morrison, her old wagon master's son, stood at their head, ready to rescue her. Sarah stepped forward, her voice ringing across the camp. One am here by choice. I am his wife. His people are my people. The soldiers raged. The Apache braced for battle. But in that moment, Sarah had chosen her fate. There would be no going back. That night, under a full moon, the camp joined them in ceremony. Apache songs rose to the stars and Chief Nika blessed their union. Standing Wolf spoke vows in English. Sarah and Apache. Two worlds, two hearts, one bond. When dawn came, soldiers marched closer. The world pressed in. But Sarah no longer trembled. She had been a widow, a wanderer, a captive. Now she was something else entirely. She was Sarah's Standing Wolf. She was Apache wife. She was burning, not with fear, but with love fierce enough to defy the desert, the soldiers, the world itself. And as Standing Wolf's hand closed around hers, steady and strong, she knew whatever storms came, they would face them together. The desert had taken everything from her, but it had also given her more than she ever dreamed possible. Home, family, and a love she would burn for until the last star fell.